Hey everybody, this is Insignificant Man, back for another episode. Thanks for joining me, and if you like the episodes, go ahead and hit subscribe and like, and I hope I'll see you here in the future. If you want to listen to my episodes on podcast, I'm available on multiple platforms from Spotify, Google, RadioPublic, Breaker, and others. So if you can't watch YouTube, maybe you can listen to me on podcast. All right, let's get started. Today we're going to be reviewing what we talked about in the previous episode, the previous recording, and we'll pick right up where we left off and continue on with balancing and having a better understanding of our body and its energy centers. But before we get going on that, I wanted again to dedicate this episode to Kathy Phillips and her daughter and Mark Phillips and all the individuals that are having to recover from any form of PTSD, especially right now with everything that's going on with people being recovered from human trafficking and all its forms and everything that goes along with it, the mind control techniques, the total suppression of life and violation of their body, personal spaces, and everything that goes along with it. I dedicate this to them and to all the military people or individuals that are dealing with any type of PTSD issues. This is the perfect place to start to begin the healing. And Kathy has a new book out now talking about the techniques that her husband Mark helped her with. So that's available on her website, and you can find her link to that book and her sites in the description box below. And real quick along those lines, I just heard a report, and it still has to be verified, but it's come from pretty reliable sources. But we know there's been a lot of action towards rescuing people from the slave trade. And today I heard a report that multiple black sites have been shut down, and these black sites have been operating in international waters on large crafts. And I don't pretend to know the full scope and detail of all these black sites, but I'm pretty sure you can imagine from movies that everybody has seen on subjects like this. And the count as of right now still has to be verified, but they've rescued over 50,000 individuals from confinement in these black sites. And there's going to be a lot of healing that's needing to take place for all these individuals. But the first step is complete, and that's getting them out of that environment, which is great. Because, I mean, I can't imagine the pain and torture of being forced into a life like that. So that is awesome. That's amazing that the Alliance is getting things going and doing amazing work. And there's positive people out there that are giving up their lives, because I'm sure there's some conflicts in order to take down these sites, and I'm sure there's loss of life on both sides. But that's great news to hear, and I'm excited to hear more details on situations and more like it too. Anyways, moving right along, picking up where we left off from last time, we started at the beginning. So we had to establish a core beginning of truth, how we know the universe works and how we know our body works and how we know we fit into this equation or this existence of creation. So we have to learn the truth, and that's starting at the beginning. So in the beginning, there was infinity. Infinity became aware, and that focus of awareness was the creation of love. And that awareness brought free will. The focus was free will, the free will to create. So infinity wanted to create, he wanted to learn, he wanted to know itself. So this focus created love. And from love came intelligent energy. And this is what we also know as the Holy Spirit. And from this intelligent energy came light. And that is the creation of all things. This light then created stars. These stars then were given free will to create as they wanted, as they saw fit. And the next step of creation was the solar systems, the planets. And you can view the stars, the suns, the planets as a great example shown by reproduction and the male seed seeding the egg, which is the exact representation of the sun with its sunlight, its rays, its photons that are seeding the planet and energizing the planet. And the planet is the egg, and its job is to bring forth the best possible yield of life on that planet. And that life is us and everything that goes along with it. So we are the next phase, I guess you'd say, the next step in creation. So you have the one infinite creator. He created the stars. They are co-creators. The stars created us. The planets are here. Their job is here to nourish that life and bring forth the full potential. So they are the potentiators, you could say. And this is a direct representation of life as we know it as well. That whole thing, as above, so below. So you have a larger scale of what's going on, and then you have a smaller scale. And if you even think about what's going on inside our bodies, it's amazing to think everything just even on a microscopic scale compared to what we see going on around us. So it's a repetition of creation from the largest levels down to the smallest levels, and it's just amazing. So we have the origin of all energies, and this origin is the action of free will upon love. So we know the creator is love because in the beginning it was infinity. It became aware. That focus of awareness became love. So the creator is love, and the action of free will upon love created infinite energy. So the nature of all energy is light, because from this intelligent energy came light. And everything is created by the interaction of intelligent energy with this light. Love creates intelligent energy, which we know as the Holy Spirit. The nature of this light creates the nature of the catalytic and energetic levels of experience in this creation. So everything that this intelligent energy and light is creating an environment for learning. It's creating catalysts. So you place someone in an environment and you observe. Well, you need something to create action. You have to give them something to do. So like if you have a turtle, I just kind of pick something off the top of my head that moves really slow. You have to have some catalyst to get it to do something, right? So you have to introduce something that will get it to move, get it to do something that you want. So I don't know, you give it food, you give it another turtle to put it in there, you give it water to swim around in. So this is catalyst for movement. And when you look at the higher density beings that are trying to help us evolve to a higher density, this catalyst is good because they're needing us to move, and they're needing us to move in an upward direction. And this upward direction is shown by the knowledge and knowing how our bodies work. And that is with the energy centers and how we absorb energy and how we use it. Our primary function in life after we become aware of this process is to fluidly placing all the balances. So we balance these energy centers and how we use them. And we use them and balance them, implement them with the energy centers in a way that intelligent energy, or what we also know as the Holy Spirit, is able to channel itself with minimal distortion through the individual in every single circumstance. So as we talked about last time, intelligent energy is the most unfiltered form of energy. It's not filtered until it's pushed or moved or moves through our energy centers. It is the most undistorted form of energy and intelligence. So this is what we're striving for. We want to be the most undistorted version of ourselves while still keeping our own identity, because we are separate for a reason, because we are unique and we need to be unique to experience life in a completely different way. So the creator can learn and understand in a completely unique way and a point of view and perspective. So this is our personalities. These are our biases. These are our emotions, our point of views, and all coming together through our actions and our thoughts. So, and this is great. This is the process. So it's not just about being fully energized in each energy center. It's being balanced between the difference of all 7 energy centers and being able to use them fluidly like music. Kind of one example I have from that just kind of comes to the front of my mind is a guitar. If you think about your body and life is a guitar, you have seven energy centers right there. First of all, the guitar itself is the bass. So that's your red energy. That is your core of what gives you the sound. That's what brings the sound, the hollow, resonating sound. Your next energy levels are your 5 strings. So if I didn't mention it, this is a 5-string guitar. So you have a 5-string guitar. The red ray is the actual guitar itself. The next 5 rays are the strings, 1 through 5. The last ray, the 7th ray, the violet ray, that's like your tuner. So that gives you a readout of what vibration you're operating at. So your tuner gives you a readout, and you have a set goal in mind, and you have your minimum goal, and then everything above that minimum goal is great. It's awesome, and there's nothing but benefit for the creator for that. So when you go to play a guitar, it's not just that everybody has to learn how to play it this way. Everybody, and with this strength of each string and each note on each string, each bar, it's everybody's individual ability to play that 5-string instrument with beauty. And we all start off playing the guitar pretty bad. And life is catalyst, it's environment full of catalyst. So we experience things and we learn from everything. And eventually we come to the process of now we know how to hold the guitar. We know how to apply pressure to each string. We can apply pressure to multiple strings at once, creating the sound that we want. It's a trial and error process. Like, nope, these two notes together, these two strings together, and this third one does not make a pleasant sound. So we adjust, we learn, and eventually we come to find chords that are pleasing to the ear, and it brings us joy. And it brings us joy because it's beautiful. And the whole process is beautiful. If you think back to if anybody's ever been around a little kid learning to play an instrument, you hate it, but at the same time, it's pretty dang cute. And you love it because it's beautiful. I had a sibling who first learned how to play an instrument. Well, sorry, it was her second instrument, but it was her first band instrument, and it was the saxophone. Oh my gosh, those days were brutal. I had to leave the house multiple times when they were practicing. But it was funny at the same time because you just look over the parents and they're cringing at the same time, but yet they're seeing a child learn to do something or begin the process of doing something that could be so beautiful in the end. Same with any kind of instrument, any kind of sport. When you see a young individual in the beginning steps, the beginning process of this, it's amazing. It's beautiful. It's ugly, but at the same time, it's beautiful. Kind of how some people think all babies are ugly. I don't see that. I think all babies are insanely cute in spite of their ugliness. Oh yeah, they're a wrinkled little raisin. But holy cow, it is so cute. It's like a wrinkled little man all typed in wrapped up in a small little package. It's funny, and it's just everything's so tiny. And because it's so tiny, it doesn't matter how ugly it is. It's pretty dang cute, you know? So it's beautiful even from the beginning process and how ugly it might seem, it might sound, or it might see, or it might feel. And you can see the creator looking at us in the same way because we are a part of it. It loves us with all its infinity and its infinite love, and it wants us to experience because he experiences. And it doesn't matter how ugly we are from the beginning, we are going to get better. We are going to learn to play those frequencies of light in a way that's beautiful. And eventually we'll get to that point. Everybody will get to that point. And that's even if you pick a positive path or a negative path, because the creator's learning from both. And you can't have a positive path without a negative path because there would be no catalyst. And every decision would be empty. Every choice would be empty. There would be no genuineness to any of it. And there almost wouldn't be any choice because you would just have to go on and do the exact same thing. There would be no energy built up, strengthening in a polarity of anything. It would just be blah. So you have to have that two opposite sides. You have to have the contrast. You have to have the difference in built up energy. So that's just kind of the beauty of the whole process. And like I said, it's like a 5-string guitar and you can apply it to whatever instrument you want, but we learn to play our bodies in a beautiful way using the frequency of the lights inside us. And that's all of the whole spectrum. That's the beauty of the rainbow. The rainbow is balance. And that's the ironic thing about today's day and age where the symbology of the rainbow has been taken over by, I guess you'd say, a more negative connotation. And it is what it is. There's no judgment behind it. These people that have the rainbow as their symbol, I see a lot of imbalance. And I I don't see anything that would bring me want to hate any of them. And, I don't know if they see that in me, and they probably never would unless they actually examine my actions and how I treat them. Or if they want to know what I think, then they can ask me what I think. And I would give them the best description possible of why my perspective and why I see things that way. But just right off the bat, the rainbow is a symbol of balance. It is a symbol of unity because all these different spectrums of light are joined together to form white light. And it's amazing. You take a prism and it separates it. And every light is shown there, which shows balance. In white light, there's perfect balance between all the rays. And this is what we're striving for. We're striving for that white light. We're striving for that perfect balance of all the colors in every spectrum of our body, and to play them in a beautiful way where it's pleasing. And we're striving for that white light, and we are a part of that white light. So the irony, I guess, of the symbolism of the rainbow nowadays is it's almost comical just because of what it symbolizes now. And if you understand the negative side, you could totally understand why it's being used that way, because what it really does symbolize is balance. And we have to learn to balance ourselves, but we have to understand our distortions, how we get our distortions, and we have to understand blockages too. And the next thing we want to get into after this is balancing. These energy centers are going to have blockages, and we have to learn how to balance them. After we talk about balancing, then we'll get into blockages as well and how to identify them. But it's up to the individual to maintain these energy centers and learn that, first of all, they are real and what each one does, and then how this process helps you heal or helps any kind of a healing process, whether you're healing yourself or whether you're healing somebody else. It's the same exact process. And another thing to just kind of bring up real quick, something for you to think about, is timelessness. So when we know infinity became aware, there's no time. Infinity is outside of time. The creator is outside of time. Third density are the only ones that experience time. Well, I shouldn't say the only ones. That third density are the only ones that, I guess you'd say it's more imperative that we exist within time. But there is fullness from the moment in the beginning of creation. So when things come out of timelessness into time, you have to remember that there's only one place for time in reality. There's one point of existence. But outside of time, it's everything. It's the full scope. It's the beginning and the end. And that has to do with us as well. So the beginning of our lives, the beginning of the development of our energy centers, and these energy centers also correspond to the different bodies we have. So when we move on after harvest, we are going to the fourth density. This is a fourth density body. This is the green ray body. This is a light body. When you go to fifth density, it's a higher form of density and light, and then sixth density and seventh density. And I'll get to those eventually in another talk. But these are corresponding bodies to the density of that light. And we have different lessons to learn in each one of those. So the fourth density is the density of love. And third density is the density of consciousness of spirit. And this density is striving towards fourth. So it's striving towards love. The fourth density is the density of love, and it's striving towards fifth density, which is the density of wisdom. And sixth density is the density of merging of both love and wisdom together and the full understanding of it. So at fifth density, you're striving towards sixth density, which is the combination of putting both love and wisdom together in a fully balanced being. And when you reach sixth density, this is kind of a culmination of your life's work. And not only your life's work, your society complex as well, because at some point we will be connected mentally as one complex, as a race. And it's just like being connected to the internet, only the internet is our bodies and minds, and we share everything because there is no judgment. We don't judge others, and others don't judge us. It is a completely open and free environment, and it's amazing. It's beautiful. So outside of this reality and this existence of time, there is timelessness, and that's what the Bible talks about, of names written in the Lamb's Book of Life before the creation of the world, because the Creator, one infinite Creator, exists outside of time, and everything was created at once. That's beginning to end. Everything is created in potential. And this goes off to a whole nother topic, a whole nother talk, which gets pretty in depth. And that's where a lot of the issues come up with the Protestants between Arminianists and Reformers. And this is talking about destiny and predestination, or there is no predestination. You make your own fate, and the squabble between that whole issue. So timelessness, but you also have to kind of grasp somewhat of an understanding that it is real, and there are forms of help that are coming to us in this third density that we don't realize, and are going to be pretty surprised when we find out what's going on. But we'll get to that at a later time. But the energies, we have these energy centers, they absorb energy. Well, how do they come into the body? Well, this is the amazing thing is, first way they come into the body is the birthright of every being, that spark of life that we have inside us. That is the Creator. That is the Creator, the energy source inside us. That is our spark. It is, kind of reminds me of Transformers. They got the all spark inside of them. That is us. That is the Creator giving us the spark of life. Now, where that actually starts and begins with, is it pre-birth? Does the baby inside the mother's womb, is its spark of life separate, its own, or is it nurtured from the mother's spark of life, and the child's spark of life doesn't activate until it's born? I don't know. That's good debate. We know that there are heartbeat after a certain amount of weeks. Is the spark of life there from the moment of the heartbeat? I don't know. Now, once the sperm and the egg join together, is the spark of life there? Because the seed is moving. It's alive. It's moving. So there's a spark of life right there. The egg is alive as well. It's waiting to be fertilized. So there's a spark of life as well. So where does this spark of life begin? I don't know. There's a possibility for a lot of speculation on it, and definitely, I'm definitely open to hearing any thoughts about it. But the spark of life is the Creator inside of us, and a great thing to start with is understanding that that's real and it is there, and we have to learn how to use it, or how to fluidly live with it, because that is the Creator. And the Spirit, the purpose of the Spirit is to help that connection of the mind and body with that inner light. And so that's the job of the Spirit, and that's why we need to strengthen our spirit so we get better at this, and we are able to connect our bodies and minds through the Spirit with that spark of light inside of us, which is the Creator, and allow it to come through as undistorted, to shine as undistorted as possible, and to bring through intelligent energy as undistorted as possible as well. So that's one way light enters the body, and it kind of starts there. It's the guiding star. It's the birthright of every being. The second way that light comes into the body is through the feet. So the way that intelligent energy flows through the universe and flows from beginning of creation, it comes from love, which is the Creator. It feeds the stars. All those co-creators are receiving this energy, and they are using that energy by free will, however they see fit to create. The energy is coming from the Creator, the original source of light. It's flowing to our star. That star is using that same energy, unfiltered, but how it sees fit, and it's energizing the earth. The earth then takes that energy and transitions it in such a way to bring forth the highest potential of life. So it feeds everything, energizes everything on this planet. And that energy enters the body through the feet. We can absorb the light, the sunlight, absolutely, and that's great. The more sunlight we can absorb, the better. That is direct energy coming from the sun. But the energy that gets converted by the earth to flow into us is a pure form of intelligent energy. So it enters through the feet, and it's always spiraling. For some reason, the Raw group always talks about spiraling light. So this intelligent energy is always spiraling, it's always moving, and it enters through our feet, goes right up the bone structure, and enters in through our tailbone. And that's every experience we have, any interaction with anything around us, there's energy, and we pick up that energy from that experience and we absorb it first through the tailbone, which is the red energy center, and then it moves up according to that process. So then you got to ask yourself, well, what causes this energy to want to come into our body? And what causes it to want to enter into our feet? Well, that's the inner light. So you think about a magnet. It's got two different poles, and those poles attract. So the inner light is positive. The outer light is negative, so they attract. And the stronger, the brighter you build that light inside of you, the more attraction it will have to the energy around the body, and the body will absorb it. And once you know this process, you can strengthen that attraction just mentally by knowing it's real and visualizing the process as well. So you want to visualize that energy coming from the creator to the star, from the star to the planet putting it off and energizing us, and that inner light inside of us is absorbing that through our feet. It's a magnetic attraction, and it enters in, like I said, through the red ray. And then this energy is filtered when it reaches the energy centers, and the efficiency of the individual's ability to tap into this inner light determines the nature of how this light is filtered and used. So the individual's abilities, and those abilities also come from its distortions. And like we talked about, we want to remove distortions because we want the clearest form of truth that there is, so we're not moving in a wrong direction. We don't have a false picture of what needs to happen for us to grow, for us to better serve the creator, whether it's positive or negative. So the person's actions show how they're using this light. It's like the guitar. Like I said, it's how we use that energy to pluck those strings. It's how we put the chords together. And when you start having multiple guitars, you have this beautiful sound. When you have multiple instruments, you have a symphony. So then you have this amazing sound coming from the symphony, and it's beautiful, and then you incorporate more art into it. You have individuals, dancing, and pretty soon you have something that could be compared to like a ballet. It's just a beautiful thing that's happening, and that is a great representation of life, of us learning how to use these energy centers in the best way possible. And we treat each other together as united, and then we become stronger, more powerful together, which means we produce better music, better symphonies, and we add another level of beauty to it, and we can serve in a more efficient and effective manner. And it just compounds beauty upon beauty upon beauty, and it has the potential to just be awe-inspiring and amazing. But we all got to start somewhere, right? So we're all going through this together. We're all starting somewhere, each at a different point, each from a different perspective, and each with different abilities and how we perceive to play this energy, use this energy. So one of the good things to start off with, once you know this process, is these energy centers need to be balanced. And the best way to balance these energy centers is mentally. So you have to have an understanding of the energy centers of the individual, of yourself, and you have to understand that healing is one of the first distortions, one of the basic distortions of creation, that everything is one big illusion because everything is light. It's an infinite amount of intelligent energy behind this light creating everything. So this light can also be used to change the illusion. And what we're doing is we're reconfiguring the illusion as we know it, as far as illnesses go, as far as sicknesses, as far as injuries go. We want to be healed. And how we see that in our mind is, I want to be back to normal. Well, what's normal? Well, for starters, one might consider normal as just a human being capable of doing everything with all its limbs, having all its senses, and having the full form of a human: arms, hands, feet, ears, nose. And you're most effective this way, so you don't have the feeling of being held back because you're sick, because you're injured, because of an illness, whatever. So these are all things that have been created in our bodies, and our bodies are part of this illusion. Well, healing, and this is mentally as well, the mind, the body, and the spirit. So healing is the action of changing that illusion to a more optimal, I guess you'd say, configuration, which makes you more effective and benefits the creator more by you taking on this configuration to serve as a co-creator and to serve as a part of creation that learns for the one infinite creator. So in this process of healing occurs when a person's mind, body, and spirit realizes deep within itself that there is no right and wrong, no disharmony, and no imperfection. So like we talked about in the last recording, you are worthy. You have always been worthy from day one. There is no right and wrong. There is no disharmony. It's okay. Everything that you lived through is okay, and it was done for a reason. Yes, it might have been painful, but it's possible to heal. It is absolutely possible to heal. Heal your mind, your body, and your spirit. So you can come back from this. And things happen for all different kinds of reasons. But it definitely is up to us to think about that. And like I said, to meditate and contemplate and pray. And this is how it seeps down into the deepest parts of our minds. Just like when you really know a subject, you really put a lot of effort into knowing that subject, and you really put it down deep to where you really believe it and you can speak it without even having to read any notes because it's so part of you. That's everything in life. Everything that we've experienced in life, we should do the same process because it's going to do nothing but benefit us. And then our conclusions, are we coming to a conclusion based off of all the evidence, and there's no biases just because emotions are involved? And also think about emotions. Where do emotions come from? How do they affect the different parts of the body? That is definitely something that everybody needs to consider doing, is taking time to think about this stuff and how it applies. And there are effects because there is emotions, there is energy behind our emotions. And what are they for? What do they show? What do they symbolize? And how do we know things are happening in our energy centers by our emotions? So what are these things? Everything is whole, everything is complete, everything is perfect. So intelligent infinity within the individual, reforms the illusion of the body, the mind or the spirit, to a form that's more congruent. Like I said before, it's amazing. It's an amazing process how the creator can heal itself. When we heal ourselves, we are healing the creator. Because remember the first 3 steps. Seek love in every situation. The universe is one being. Look in the mirror, see the creator. Look at everybody else around you and see the creator. Look at everything around you and see the creator. So when we take on the responsibility or what we might feel is duty to serve the creator by healing those around us, you are the creator healing another part of creation. So it's a process of the creator healing itself. And now you flip that on the other side of the coin. Look at killing and murder. And the creator is still learning through this process. So there's still learning to be had. But when you have a part of creation killing another part of creation, that is the opposite of healing. So healing is the creator repairing or healing the creator. Murder is the creator ending the physical life, the physical existence of the creator. So you kind of have, 2 sides of one coin right there. But the healer is a conduit. So whether you're healing yourself, you have to become a conduit. You have to learn about that inner light. You have to learn about the energy coming into the body attracted to that inner light. You have to learn about distortions. You have to learn about the energy centers and how to remove enough distortions in order to bring intelligent energy in through the body to join with the light inside of you and allow that to heal. So this process heals the individual first. So having an understanding of that, the healer is becoming energized with this intelligent infinity. And then when you look outwards, people healing others, it's really the healer becoming a conduit for the light of the creator and allowing an opportunity for the other people around them to heal themselves. And like I said before, that the healing process is in the faith, it's in the belief, and knowing that it is happening, can happen, and that process takes place through the violet ray. And this is why every time Jesus healed somebody, he said, your faith has healed you. Pick up your mat and go. Another amazing part about when Jesus was healing is when he would say, "Don't tell anybody." I always thought this was the weirdest thing. Like, why would you tell somebody not to say anything? And then instantly right after that, I'm like, they did the same thing in the Garden of Eden. I'm like, how? Why? It's just weird. Like, what's the connection there? Well, the connection is this: preservation of free will is paramount. And when you heal somebody, you give full credit to how that healing came to be, and that's the creator, because you are the creator, and the other person that's being healed is the creator as well. And that light from the creator is healing, and that's the green ray energy center. So the healer's ability to bring in energy, the intelligent energy into the body, united with the inner light of the body and the energy coming in through the feet, all combining in the green ray energy center. And then you're emitting this out to the person. So they're absorbing this green ray energy center. And that person's belief and faith opens up their violet ray energy center and draws that green ray light in. And this green ray light is the great healer. It's the great builder. So the healer is the creator. That's the green light, the great healer. And so this process of allowing a portion of the creator, the green light, to help adjust the illusion of the other person being healed or the individual healing itself. So when Jesus would say, "Don't tell anybody," this is like the solidifying of maybe say a prayer. So when we always say a prayer, we always say amen at the end. It just kind of ends it. So it kind of solidifies it. Yes, I put in my order, bam, stamp of approval, it's going to happen. I'm going to get that meal because I put my order in and I stamped amen at the end of it. Well, this is the exact same thing. At the end of the healing process, free will, when you preserve free will at its fullest, this is that stamp of approval that kind of seals it, because it's up to the individual to accept as much healing as they want. And it's up to them to tell anybody about it or to not tell anybody about it. That's their choice. So in creation, when Adam and Eve were told to not eat from the tree of knowledge, this was free will at its fullest being addressed or being used, being enacted and placed in the scenario. So boom, right off the bat, pretty much do what you want, because now we know that free will is paramount, because this is how the creator learned, and this is how he wants us to learn, because he learns through us. So when you tell somebody to not do something, but you don't care what they do, this is you giving them the free will to do whatever they want. Now, there's definitely some thoughts on that, and because of the intent that we perceive that as, and this again has to do with distortion. So this is another great topic for people to think about and to mull over in their heads is, why this phrase? Well, why don't do something? Because it seems like it has something negative right off the bat. And I don't know why, but this is, I guess, what they have come to understand is the best way to solidify the full effect of free will being implemented. Okay, so moving right along, after this point, we have balances. We have to learn how to balance, and like I talked about, this is how to visually see the energy coming through the feet up into the body, into the red ray, and you visually see that spiraling energy move into the red ray. It lights up the red ray, it moves up to the orange ray. Continue to visualize the spiraling light, the spiraling energy to move from the orange up to yellow, from the yellow up to green, from the green up to blue, blue up to indigo. And I believe you can open up your violet ray as well, like a valve, and return that energy right back to creation. So everything around you. So where you received it from, you're giving it right back. So you visualize this energy spiraling up through your body, through these energy rays. And this is what balances. And if there's a blockage, this can prevent the blockage, or it can resolve the blockage and allow energy to continue to flow. And it's just a mental process. It's a mental practice to calm yourself, to quiet yourself, stop for a moment, remember where the energy is coming from. It's coming into your body, and you want that spiraling light to continue to move up through your energy rays. And just take whatever time you need. It can be done really quick, or you can just spend a lot of time just visualizing that and kind of opening yourself up to that process and letting it letting your energy centers balance themselves. So on the other end of that, we have blockages. And so you kind of think, well, what are blockages? And I guess you could say they're another form of distortions, or another way to say distortions, or distortions come from our blockages, or blockages bring us distortions. So they're kind of connected, but I kind of given a little definition of blockages, maybe kind of two different definitions. It can be defined as retaining energy at a specific energy center. This not allowing energy to flow through, or it's the inability for energy to rise to the next energy center, starting with red. So in this, how we wake up in the morning, we're just annoyed. Well, you probably have a blockage, and that's what's going on. And you're just mad, and everything anybody does around you just ticks you off. Your temper is really short. You're snapping at everybody. Well, this is because you have a blockage. When you woke up in the morning on that wrong side of the bed, you didn't realize it, but the energy entering into your body is being baffled. It's being blocked at a certain energy level. And whatever energy level that is, you can pretty much deduce by your actions. So if anything sets you off and makes you angry, you most likely have a blockage in your red ray. And I'll go through all the rays right now, and you can kind of see the manifestation of blockages from each ray. So we've defined blockage. Now we know what it is. And we'll start with red ray, because every experience and energy enters first through the red ray. So this is the basic earth energy, like we talked about, your survival, your fight or flight, your reproductive side, your animalistic reproduction side, because sex has a totally different meaning, and I'll get to that and give it its own recording, and maybe even two, because it's such an amazing topic, but it's so important once we learn about the energy centers. Blockages in the red ray can show themselves as fight or flight and anger, or just wanting to procreate with anyone from the opposite sex, or I guess the nowadays with the sex you're attracted to. So that is what will manifest itself if there's a blockage in the red ray. So like I talked about, when you wake up in the morning and everybody just kind of is annoying the crap out of you and ticks you off, that's your anger. You're so quick to anger because you have a blockage in your red ray. Orange ray is an emotional and personal ray. The blockage in this ray can show as being eccentric due to lack of confidence. And if you're not able to accept yourself for who you are, like we talked about with the body, being able to accept your body for what it is, this is red ray. There is a blockage, or excuse me, this is orange ray. There's a blockage in orange ray. So eccentricities are going to start manifesting and showing with a blockage in this ray. And you'll see an extreme reaction, most likely in anger. I think most people nowadays would say they see anger as the biggest reaction to a blockage in orange ray due to a lack of confidence. When people have a lack of confidence in themselves, then you have that energy is being stopped in orange ray. So the only energy rays that you have to resolve that situation is red and orange. And this is where a lack of confidence of an individual, they're always it always makes them mad because they feel like they've been challenged and now they're being tested, and they don't have as much confidence in their abilities or whatever's going on, so they get mad. This is a lack of understanding and accepting the self, which means you're accepting your mind, how you think, balancing your mind, and accepting your body, and balancing and being okay with your body, accepting your weaknesses and your strengths, and then also your spirit. And the next ray is yellow. So a blockage in yellow usually shows up as your ego, and it'll manifest distortions of manipulation. So if it raises to yellow and it's blocked and held there in yellow, it has those three rays to react with. When someone's challenged, they're immediately angered, right? So their lack of confidence has brought about a negative reaction or an angry reaction. And so their ego has been challenged because of their lack of confidence. And now to make up for that, they use the energy for what proceeds. And that is to manipulate the situation or the individual by any means necessary to regain control of that energy exchange. So that catalyst, that environment, that exchange of energy caused a reaction. And it was a reaction of anger. and the energy was able to rise and sit within the first 3 energy centers, and it had a blockage at yellow. So yellow, the ego came out, started talking, started doing whatever an ego is going to do. And then the mind starts thinking of ways to manipulate the situation to regain that loss of energy, because they feel like they were belittled or embarrassed or whatever because of their lack of confidence. So it makes complete sense when you start thinking about the job of each one of these energy centers and what happens when you get a blockage. And so when you get a blockage in yellow, the energy is never allowed to rise past yellow. So the only reactions you're going to get is one of those reactions of the energies in those first 3 energy centers. So then once you do have green ray activated, you can visualize seeing this energy move up past the red, orange, and yellow and into green. And this is the love energy center. And this is where the acts of kindness really start to come out and putting others first. There still might not be a total purity behind their motivations, but they're still performing acts of love, and they're starting to maybe understand it, but they're starting to use it. So they're starting to use that green ray. But if there's a blockage in their green ray, it'll just show itself as difficulties in expressing compassion, or what we call universal love. If someone that you know as a person displays acts of kindness, you know that they're using green ray. But if they're having a hard time showing compassion in certain situations, or for certain individuals, or for certain people, that circumstance, that situation, there is a blockage of green ray. And so what you want is to visually and consciously allow that energy to rise and continue to rise to blue ray. Blue ray is the first outgoing ray as well as inpouring. So because of, you can teach through the blue ray, but you also learn through the blue ray as well. So that's the reasoning behind that. But this blue ray blockage can show as a difficulty to express one's true self. So, and to kind of fully grasp the understanding of the spiritual nature of the individual. You have someone that's a kind person, you'd say they're a good person, and they're kind to others. They treat other individuals well, and they're very knowledgeable, they're outgoing, but they just don't quite understand the concept of a spirit. Then this is a sign of blockage in the blue ray. So this is also understanding it internally, but also understanding it externally as far as people trying to communicate that to them. And this just doesn't have to be about the spiritual or the understanding of the spirit being part of the body complex. This can just be about anybody not wanting to listen to what anybody else has to say. So they have a blockage in blue ray. So I think everybody knows that person. They shut off and they're done listening. They're like, nope, no sir, I'm done. I'm done talking to you. I'm out. I don't like what you have to say. So this is immediately a blockage in blue ray. And then depending on where they continue the blockage, if they continue to block all the way down to yellow, you're going to get those reactions of red, orange, and yellow. And then indigo ray is a gateway ray where the intelligent energy enters through the body complex. But when you have a blockage in the indigo ray, and I know a lot of people listening to me definitely would understand this and have seen this before, but it's just one way of it manifesting itself is that people just don't feel worthy. They don't feel worthy of any kind of a creator. In their mind, if they're trying to understand everything, or if they do understand that there's a creator, they understand or believe in God, they believe in Emmanuel, they believe in a higher power, but they just don't feel worthy. That is where this is coming from. There's a blockage. And that's why the people, the individuals, the beings on a negative path want to stop this. They want to prevent this. And that's why anytime you see this in a religious setting where people just don't feel worthy, or they're told things to get them thinking in a way that, man, I can never feel worthy. I'm just dead in sin. I'm just such a sinner. I'm never going to be worthy. I'm never going to attain that. Well, newsflash, you are worthy. You've been worthy since day one. And the negative side wants the positive side to feel unworthy, because this is a blocking of the indigo ray. And this opening and this activation of indigo ray is another stepping stone. It's huge. It's the difference between being an individual, being a everyday, average day person, or being a person like Emmanuel that can view himself as creator, and he can serve the creator by helping every last bit of the creation around him in a more beneficial and effective manner, by healing, by by feeding people, by doing whatever they possibly find the abilities that they have, by opening up and activating this indigo ray, by telling people about future events and foreseeing stuff happening, the future, and prophecies that have been laid down have come from people that are using these, have opened up the indigo ray energy center. And that's what's going on. So negative beings on the negative path want positive beings to be blocked in this area. So how do you know if any one of these rays is activated? You'll know by the actions, and it's telltale signs of each ray. So the red ray is always active. That's a constant, and that's our survival ray. Orange ray activation shows an individual expressing its power on another individual. So that domination, that wanting, your ego was burned, so you want to dominate that person. So like in the male world, that's you get in a fight. So the best way to dominate somebody, well, the ultimate way to dominate somebody is to kill them. But if you don't want to go that far and kill them, you just want to beat the crap out of somebody. So that's orange ray. Yellow ray activation, yellow ray shows as power over a larger group. So if you want to control the masses, a large group, you're wanting to manipulate, lie, cheat, steal, do whatever you have to do to get this larger group to either think the way you do or to do your bidding. So your will is being imposed on a larger group. And to bring up a topic for people to think about, and not that sports is bad. I love sports. I've learned a lot about life from sports, and I still want to be able to teach sports to kids growing up. It's a great way to learn. But sports is huge when it comes to using the lower three energy levels. So it is when you're wanting to dominate over an individual, when you're wanting to dominate over a group of people, this is red ray, or excuse me, this is red through yellow ray, but this is primarily yellow ray. And on an individual basis, it's orange ray. So really orange and yellow, you're wanting to dominate. So sports is kind of like something we've created in our society where it builds up strength in these lower energy levels, and it kind of teaches us how to dominate over somebody. And in one way, sports teaches us great lessons in life, as far as humility goes, but not for everybody. In some people, it just teaches you how to continue to dominate over somebody and impose your will on somebody. Now, it doesn't have to be this way, and this is what I strive for in any type of my coaching for any kind of sport, is how do we let that energy rise into green and blue and even indigo. But how do you perform sports? Yeah, indigo might be considered cheating, actually. So, uh, thinking about that on your own as well would be something I'd suggest, doing. But think about the whole connection between sports and energy centers, and how do we, like wrestling. I'm a huge wrestling fan. The things that the sport of wrestling did for me, I can't even quantify, really. It was such a pivotal point in my life that gave me such confidence that without it, I'd be missing out on the rest of the most important aspects of my life. And definitely when it comes down to belief in the Creator. So nothing in itself is evil. There is no good and bad, right? We've already talked about this. We already discussed this. But everything exists because it was created. So everything is from the Creator. So everything can be used for good or bad. The atomic bomb, that energy can be used for an amazingly positive source to power the light for the electrical grid of our planet. It can also be used in a negative light. Sex is an amazing positive act, but it can also be used negatively. You name it, anything that's been created, it can be used in a positive way, or it can be used in a negative way. So sports is no different. I guess the challenge to myself in coaching is, and I raise this challenge to other coaches, is how do you, because we know that love is the most infinite and powerful source in existence. So how do we apply that understanding to sports? Well, for starters, sportsmanship is a great way to begin. Maybe the next one I think of is think about how you're treating the kids that you're coaching. Do you yell at them? Do you try to motivate them through fear? Do you try to motivate them through pain? Do you try to motivate them through this? Think about it. Does it have to be that way? Is that the best and most effective way to coach? And then on a more personal level with the athlete is for them, why are they playing the sport to begin with? In my perspective is you're playing that sport, or, as far as wrestling goes, you're involved in that sport, you're participating in that sport because you love that sport. Well, what do you love about the sport? Well, you love the fans, you love the environment, you love that everybody in that environment loves the different aspects of the sport, and everyone is under the impression that the sport revolves around one person imposing their will on another. And it is true, but does it have to be true? Or is that negative? Does it have to be negative? And one thing Ra talks about in the Law of One, the raw material, is anytime thanksgiving is given to the creator for that event, it is automatically and instantly a positive thing. So, like, I am thankful for wrestling, even though it's one person imposing their will on another. I am thankful for it because, first of all, it's from creation. And then, second of all, it has taught me a lot about life. And then the next step is I don't have to hate my opponent to be aggressive and to be involved in this sport. So the next thing is well, it is completely okay to love the fans and love the other athletes. And you look at that athlete, you see the creator, you even see yourself, because that other athlete is making you better. So just like light in the dark, without the dark, we wouldn't know how bright the light really is. So that other athlete, he loves that sport just as much as you do. And you're going to show him love by being the best version of yourself you can possibly be, because he is going to learn from all his mistakes as well. So the only way he can learn from his mistakes is by you showing him his mistakes. And so kind of my perspective on wrestling is never, and even fighting and martial arts and everything I've been involved in that aspect, is I've never really had to dominate somebody. I've only just had to show them their weaknesses, and I've been able to exploit their weaknesses. So I don't directly impose my will. I just don't allow their will to be imposed on me. So there's different perspectives you can extrapolate from this, and this goes for every sport. Football, volleyball, soccer, I mean, you name it, boxing, definitely all the martial arts is comparable to wrestling. And I'd argue that point with anybody that wrestling is the original martial art. So, but anyway, now we have activation in these rays. We know what it looks like. Activation in yellow is you're wanting to exert your will over a larger number of groups and societies. So slavery is a great example of wanting to impose your will, and that's yellow ray. That's strong yellow ray. Beings of the negative polarity will use all these three bottom rays together to contact intelligent infinity. So when you're on the negative path, you have to work really hard because you're only primarily using the red, orange, and yellow. So when you're on a negative path, you have to use these three beginning rays in such a dedicated fashion, if you want to be able to bring about intelligent infinity. So like I said, at harvest, there are requirements at harvest, and you can be harvested as a positive, or you can be harvested as a negative. And the requirement for harvest is your ability to, through minimal distortions, be able to communicate with the creator, intelligent energy, and that's through the indigo ray center. So it is the exact same thing for people upon the negative path. When you use these lower three rays in such a dedicated fashion, and it's possible to open up and activate the indigo ray. And you think about everything that's going on nowadays that the Alliance is fighting against, everything like the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the Bilderberg groups, all these people, all these bankers that have been controlling the money for years trying to accomplish their agenda, like I've talked about in previous talks. This is the beast that we know of, that we've heard about and read about for so long in the book of Revelation, because we are at the time of harvest. This is what these people do to accumulate power. They are using these lower three rays constantly and powerfully. So once you once you are able to use these bottom three rays powerful enough, you will activate the indigo ray. So green ray, once that's activated, it really shows acceptance or freedom of others and yourself. So you accept yourself and you accept others, and you look at yourself and say, no matter what's happened to me, no matter what I've done, no matter what I have chosen to do, or no matter what I've done and didn't realize I was doing, it's okay. It's always okay, because we are all worthy from the beginning, and there is no right and wrong. There is only learning and serving the Creator by that learning. So that's what this green ray, when it's active, it's showing acceptance of self, and it's showing unconditional acceptance of ourself first, and then shown outwards, it's showing unconditional acceptance of others and everything around us. And unconditional acceptance of knowing everything around us is the Creator. Now, there is one thing of note when it has to do with the green ray. And so we're just talking about the green ray activation, which means there's no blue ray activation yet. So the thing about green ray activation is once it's activated, it can't be deactivated. So this goes into the line of discussion, again, because my background will always come kind of back to a discussion of Arminianism and Calvinism. And this has to do with one of the 5 points of Calvinism that those two groups argue over so often, and that is perseverance of the saints. So, once saved, always saved. Once you accept Jesus in your heart, are you saved for life, or do you have to worry about backsliding and losing your salvation? Can you lose your salvation? Well, like I said again, it we didn't have all the information to make an accurate answer, I guess you'd say. So just like we are not born spiritually dead, we are not born separated from God, we are not born separated from creation. Our bodies are born with green, blue, and indigo rays not activated. So they have to be activated. Well, once that green ray is activated, that is the cornerstone decision, choosing to love. And you can either love yourself or you can love others. And that's the split of the path. And that's, like I talked about before, Emmanuel became that example. So if you believe in Emmanuel, you believe in love, and you dedicate your life to love and service of the Creator along the positive path. Is this possible before Emmanuel, before he died on the cross? Absolutely, because love has been in existence from the beginning, because love is creation. So this threshold that has to be crossed from yellow to green, it has to have some energy, and that is the dedicating of your life to love. And that brings about an expression of that love, of loving your neighbor more than yourself, and accepting yourself unconditionally, and accepting others unconditionally as well. But like I said, there's one thing to note about it. If there's no Blu-ray usage yet, it's activated. It's possible. It's there in potential. It just is waiting for the individual. But green ray is always vulnerable to the orange and yellow ray of possession. So, and this has to do with energy transfers. So you think about people backsliding. It's, getting caught up in the wrong crowd, getting caught up in the crowds of rebelliousness and stuff like that. Well, what kind of energies are they using? They're using red, orange, and yellow. And those are all the energies we're all familiar with from day one, because those are the energy centers that have been activated and we all started out with. There's an activation of the green ray, but it's always susceptible to the orange and yellow. And this also has to do with sex as well. So when you have a relationship with somebody, or you're involved with somebody sexually, if there is a want to possess the other person, or if there's a want to be possessed by the other person, this stops the transfer of energy between the two people of green ray energy. So that's why it's susceptible to the orange and yellow, because this will cause a blockage, and there will be no green ray transfer between the two individuals. And like I said, there's a whole nother talk about sex, and that has to do primarily with energy transfers. That is one form of how humans, third density beings, transfer energy between each other. And there's a very specific type of energy from male and female. And that can be seen, like I talked about before, in the sun and the earth. And when you look at the whole thing from a different perspective of knowing the roles and how our bodies work, it is beautiful, and it makes sense why men and women were said to be the only way to come together. And it's because how their energies interact and how they support each other. It's the energies of the two individuals, a positive and a negative, that can light a light bulb. So you have two batteries. Those two batteries, you bring them together in the right fashion, they'll light the light bulb. If you flip one of those batteries around and you got female end to female end, it's not going to light up the light bulb. Or if you have male to male, it's not, they'll light the light bulb. And I say that example for a reason, as funny as that sounds. But there is a specific reason why the best form of sexual relationships is between a man and a woman, and that has to do with the energetic transfer between the two and how they nurture each other. So moving right along, you have the green ray, what it shows, and then you have its potential vulnerability to orange and yellow. Next you have blue ray, and like I said, this is the first kind of spiritual ray, but activation in this ray shows as giving the individual the opportunity for feeling of being accepted. So, and then also being free enough to fully express itself as well. So that's why green and blue are so kind of closely connected, because this green ray energy is this energy that can motivate blue ray and activate and use it. So you can give people a feeling by using this activation of blue ray that they are totally worthy, totally acceptable, not seen as any kind of a possession, but they are a free person just like you are. You love them unconditionally, and you treat them with that unconditional love, and you speak that to them, and as well as you're able to express yourself freely from the core of your heart. So everything, the very bottom of you and your core and who you are as a being, you're able to express yourself. And this brings about joy, and because you realize you are creation and the person next to you is part of that creation as well. And so they're deserving of that acceptance no matter what they do. So like I said before, blue ray is immediately available to the individual once green ray is activated. It only waits for the individual and the efforts used. Activation of indigo ray can only be activated after a considerable amount of discipline. Like I talked about before, this one's going to take the most amount of time. The other ones are pretty instantaneously. They can happen in a flash. Indigo ray is something that takes place over time and with understanding. So a discipline and a knowledge of understanding the body, mind, and the spirit. And also beginning to really, truly 100% accepting yourself as the creator. So you are totally worthy, 100% worthy of the creator, because the creator is one, created all things. The creator is love. Purpose of learning for the creator and helping the creator learn more about itself. So this is the indigo ray. And like I said, activation here is in the balance of minimal distortions to begin with of the lower energy centers below indigo ray is when infinite intelligent energy is then allowed to come in through this ray. And like I said before, with violet ray, it's a fixed ray. It's more of a valve, and it is what it is. It's kind of a readout of all the rays below. And one other thing I guess I forgot to mention about the uniqueness or a function of the violet ray and the red ray. They're both fixed, so they're both unable to be manipulated. But what they serve as is valves. So when any kind of energy enters through the body, like I said, it enters through the red ray. Well, healing enters through the violet ray. So these are both valves that allow energy access into the body complex. So when you think about, spirit possession and stuff like that, well, can a Christian be possessed and all this kind of stuff? Well, you have to understand the body and how it works and how light enters the body. And these two rays are the only way the energy can enter into the body. So when you talk about being exposed, and the second one of those rays is open to something, it's allowing it in, so it's exposing itself to that interaction, and that interaction is energy. Because everything is energy, everything is light. So the brighter your light is inside on these higher energy level or energy centers, the brighter the light, the closer you are to crystallizing that light into the form of any kind of precious jewel like a ruby or a gem or a diamond. That is the final goal for these energy centers, to crystallize and to freeze light And that's actually what diamonds are. That's what rubies are. Crystals are light. They're just frozen light. And that's what's so amazing about crystals, is that it's perfect structure. And that structure is kind of a pure version of light in this physical form. There's parts of these colors, like every color to our energy center, that we don't see because it's in more of a metaphysical side of things that we don't know about. So we can't really identify what you would say is like a true color green, because what we see in physical is only one part of it. The other part is what we don't see, and that's kind of the metaphysical world. And light exists in all dimensions and all densities. So there's definitely parts of that light that we don't see. But when we see a crystal, when we see a diamond, when we see a ruby, this is frozen light. And so that is kind of our main goal for all these energy centers. And we want to keep them activated. We want to keep them balanced. And we want to identify blockages and know how to identify blockages, and then know how to balance them and let that energy continue to flow. And that's in every single situation, every single circumstance we have in life, from when we wake up in the morning to when we go to bed at night. And a great time to just contemplate and think about that stuff is at night before you go to sleep. If you're married or if you're single, whatever, a significant other, you take the time by yourself to just think about things and think about what you did today and how you can do it better tomorrow. And that's part of contemplation. And that can even be used for a time of meditation too, if you want. And we'll get more into the techniques of stuff like that of meditation later in another one. But the kind of importance of the red ray and violet ray is still there, even though it's not the upkeep of it isn't as necessary as the others. But these are the valves into our body complex. So the red and the violet. So that's kind of the beginning steps on understanding ourselves, the beginning steps to healing. We must understand our mind, our body, and our spirits. And we've kind of touched on at least all three, but mainly been focusing on our body, and we need to understand our body. And our mind is influenced as well by these energy centers in the certain spectrums of each center, and their what manifests from each energy. And whether we're thinking of lying, whether we're thinking of manipulating somebody somehow, or whether we're thinking about being angry, or if we're thinking about loving someone, if we're thinking about teaching someone what we've learned, or we've learned something amazing, our mind is involved directly with these energy centers as well. And then our spirit comes into being the connection between our mind, body, and infinite energy, intelligent energy, and intelligent infinity, which is the creator, which is love. So this is kind of the beginning steps, and healing begins through understanding this. And the mind is, I'm not sure if I'll talk about the mind next, but it's definitely one of the next steps, or spirit, but because there's definitely more information to be said about both those avenues. And the mind, I think the most work really has to be done in the mind, and especially with the trauma of people with PTSD and through traumatic experiences, no matter what it might be. It could be something minimal that if you told somebody, everyday person, that you have PTSD, you're like, well, what for? Well, dogs. I got bit by a dog when I was younger. Well, that is a form of PTSD. It's nothing to laugh at, and it should be accepted as real because it's real to that person, and that person is totally capable. That individual is totally capable of overcoming that distortion and that fear. And because we're all striving towards love, we're all striving towards the light of the Creator, and there is no fear within perfect love. And we're looking at perfecting love within ourselves. We're working at perfecting the songs that we play in life with the frequencies that we have with these energy centers. The mind is definitely, I think, one of the hardest things to work with in recovering, just with just understanding as well, but accepting the self, learning about the self and the mind, and letting things sink down into the mind, and removing distortions from the mind. I think the most distortions come from the mind because every person's mind contains all things. Everything is there in potential in the mind, which another reason why there is no right and wrong, because everything is possible. There's nothing that the mind cannot think of that wasn't already thought of, or the Creator didn't think of already. So this infinity, it's impossible. Everything you think of, the Creator's already thought of, and maybe even implemented in some form of creation, someplace, somewhere. So it's okay to have these thoughts, and that's where it's okay to understand that there is trauma to the mind, but the mind can be healed, just like the body can be healed, and just like the spirit can be healed. Like I said, I dedicate this episode, this recording, to anybody dealing with PTSD and overcoming any kind of mind control, manipulation, human trafficking, PTSD from combat, PTSD from accidents, previous relationships, domestic violence, you name it. Domestic violence and especially women's rights in countries that are truly being violated. And I'm not talking about equality in pay, because I don't think I've ever made more money than my significant other, or maybe a few times, but pretty much I'm not the breadwinner in the family, and I'm okay with that. That's fine. And it really doesn't matter. And there are countries where women's rights are precious. And I've lived in those countries for the last 10 years. And it's real, and I see it firsthand. Afghanistan is one of those examples where the Taliban has potential of taking back over. And it could be horrible for women's rights. Not all of Islam is treating people the same way the Taliban is treating them. So you can't say it's all Islam. There is a lot of, I think, rights violations when it comes to women with the Islamic culture. But it seems like there's definitely an improvement being seen, at least what I've seen in the last 10 years. 10, 11, 12, 15 years, sorry. But there's a potential for a backlash and for a harsh reversal of what has been accomplished already. The amount of severity that women's rights have been trampled on in this country is extreme, and I wish I could convey that to everybody, but it's hard always for some people to just listen to it. Sometimes they really have to see it for themselves and then understand what we have back in other first world countries like America. We have it pretty dang good. There's potential for a backlash, so I really hope the best for the women in the Islamic culture, but definitely in Afghanistan. If we are removed as any kind of a presence here, there is a potential for the Taliban to come back and lash out, and women would be one of those ways they would lash out. So keep that in mind, that there's definitely that going on all over the world, and I definitely see the day coming soon where no one has to live like that anymore, and I look forward to that day. So I hope everyone enjoyed this talk. I hope everyone is having a good day. This is the Insignificant Man, and I will see you later. All right, take care.